Must-know ordering rules and its diagram. Hello, my name is Jennifer and I am a 2L student at UC Davis School of Law. Providing some background information, I scored a 174 on my LSAT and can confirm these rules are necessary to learn. Now that we've covered conditional rules and complex conditional rules in previous videos, we can directly discuss the structure of ordering rules that will be extensively covered in the LSAT. In this video, we will go over diagramming rules for ordering games. However, there are various types of ordering games, such as the one-to-one correspondence, the underbooked ordering, overbooked ordering, and building tiers. There are millions of different logic games, and each one administered in the LSAT will be uniquely constructed, albeit within the same parameters or structures. But because these rules are different, they will also be worded differently. This is why it makes it essential and important to know how to diagram these concepts, so you can easily recognize what the test is asking for when you take the LSAT.
For a simple summary, there are 6 basic ordering games tactics: dashes, blocks, restrictions, divisions, options, and arcs. It is important to note that these rules are not created equal, and that blocks and arcs are going to be the most helpful, common across all ordering games. However, I will not be going over dashes since it's been detailed heavily in JTL2. First are the blocks and reversible blocks. Blocks are used to represent spatial relationships, more concrete than those represented by dashes. Essentially, it's when one player is situated in relation to another player. For example, the shotgun needs to be placed immediately in front of the crib. In this sentence, the variables S and C needs to be boxed in. The family room is auctioned off immediately after the vacation rental. Likewise, as the one before, these 2 variables need to be boxed in. Jack arrives at the party immediately before Carl, but immediately after Mike. Just from looking at these relationships, what sticks out? The word immediately. Any term that specifies a definitive absolute relationship that is constant, terms like exactly or strictly, these are key identifier terms. That you are dealing with a block relationship and symbolizing these rules is an important visual reminder to keep consecutive slots open. So in a 5-slot game, if A, B, and C are together, they can only be in a slot 1 to 3, 2 to 4, or 3 to 5. Occasionally, blocks will leave empty spaces between players as well. For example, exactly 1 winner spins after Betty but before Tina. The bus tour visits Chat exactly 3 days after Nashville. Although the diagram seems like a mistake, you have to be very careful with the wording that introduces blocks. The last block does represent that Chat is visited 3 days after Nashville. However, this is synonymous with the rule stating that there are 2 cities between Chat and Nashville. So 3 days after equals 2 days between.
The second ordering tactic is forming restrictions and its deductions. Rules will commonly dictate that a player cannot be placed in a certain slot, and you will symbolize these relationships underneath the allocated slot. For example, Delilah cannot be seated in chair 3. You can form these restrictions from blocks and dashes as well. For example, Sleepy must be in a lower numbered room than Dopey. Grumpy must be in a room numbered 1 lower than Bashful. From these 2 sentences, you can form a restriction. Since S must be in a room lower than D, D cannot be in slot 1, and likewise with Bashful. If there were 6 slots, you would know S and G cannot be in the 6th slot. You also need to form your own deductions and inferences from given rules. For example, 5 slots and 5 players, T, U, V, W, and X. The rules are T cannot finish 1st or 5th, X must be 3rd, and U and V must be in front of W. From these rules, we can form a variety of deductions and restrictions. Since W has to be in front of U and V, and X and T cannot be in the 5th slot, we know the only possible option for slot 5 is W. Additionally, T can only be in slot 2 and 4, whereas U and V are the only possible options for slot 1. However, we will go over these options later in the video. Next up, number 3 are divisions. Divisions simply are 2 players who cannot be next to each other. For example, the ham cannot be served immediately before matzah. Rush and Obama cannot be seated next to each other. For example is reversible, but the first is not. Although divisions are much less common than blocks, they are still important to understand and very easy to remember. The fourth ordering rule is options and linked options. You may have seen me write down an option in a previous example. Options is when certain slots are assigned to one or two players. For example, either Balthazar or Kryptonite must be assigned to Space Shuttle N. Since there are only these two possible options, it's important to write it directly on the slot as a visual reminder. Not only can you form these options from deductions, if anything, it will be more important. Another form of options are the linked options. Linked options are a frequently used variant of normal options. It's very simple. If you know that two players must fill two specific slots, but you don't know exactly who fills each one, you should represent this situation with linked options. For example, Xavier must perform second. Vendetta must perform fourth. Vendetta must perform after both Yolanda and Zane. After symbolizing these rules, we know that Y and Z are before V, which has to be in the fourth slot. Since the second slot is filled by X, we know 1 and 3 can only be Z or Y, and we represent it as an option. Finally, for number 5 are the arcs. Arcs restricts a certain player to certain slots. And to represent this, you represent the rule by making, you guessed it, an arc. For example, Juan must be assigned to week 3 or 5. Divine must stand at the front or back of the line. In this inherent order, it will be 1 or 7. That will be all for this video that covers the primary ordering rules that will be covered in ordering games, and entirely for a one-to-one correspondence. In future lessons, we will go over additional rules that will be required for different situations, such as the Overbooked and Underbooked games and tiered ordering. Thank you for watching JTL, and I will see you guys next time.